Okay, we're live.
We're live?
Yeah.
Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a class led by your host, Matt McCrory. Who am I, you ask? So glad you did. So, my name is Matt McCrory. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. You probably recognize that from my deep accent. So, I'm the team leader of the Tim Stout Group, one of the investors here at True North. So, I feel this is a very, very important topic, and I feel it has led to a lot of Tim Stout's success himself and what he has passed on to me. Educating buyers is crucial. So far this year, I have, if we go out to the end of August, I have 33 units closed with a little over $7 million in volume. With all that being said, only 4 deals have fallen through. So, how I attribute that to is, if we are talking to buyers up front of what they are expecting to go down the road, they are less likely to get whiplash when something crazy happens, right? So whenever you're, who's Joey in there? Or hop along. So whenever you're going through a deal,
Joey hurt his knee. Joey hurt his knee.
Joey hurt his knee doing jujitsu. Fun fact of jujitsu: whenever you do any type of wrestling and they touch your legs, just tap because you can't feel pain until something pops. Right, Joey? Yeah. So. Any hoops, what I found, you got to educate your buyers up in the front end. And so that sounds great and all, but what does that mean? What does educating a buyer mean? And that is educating buyers on everything that is important in the deal. Notice how I said everything that is important and not everything. Because if you just give all information ever about loan products, about, oh cool, well you could do this type of loan product and that would allow you to put this much down, you could buy down a point, and they have so much information that they're now overwhelmed and they're frightened. And when somebody is frightened, they usually close down and they're like, I'm not going forward, I don't feel confident going forward. So in this job, we are in sales, but we are also counselors, like housing counselors, if you will, emotion handlers.
That's
right?
my new title.
Everybody in this business, once you start closing 5-6 deals a month, it's just a deal, right? Obviously, you're caring about who you're caring about them and their transaction here, but we have to sometimes back up and realize this is maybe their one deal. That this is the biggest purchase of their life, possibly ever, and this is it. So they don't know about earnest money. They don't know about inspections and how it happens. They don't know about any of that stuff. And for us, it can become second nature. So sometimes we'll kind of lag behind on our due diligence of educating folks. And whenever there is miscommunication, or rather lack of communication, is when you have confusion. And when there's confusion in something so important, you have frustration. Frustration leads to anger. Anger leads to deals breaking, things, people being frightened as well and jumping out of it. So I make sure that we do a lot of front-end work on our team, and that's what I'm really stressing at here within the brokerage in and of itself. Is it's a lot like building a deck. I don't know if anyone has any type of, if you watch somebody do it, or if you yourself have done it, a lot of agents will build a deck like this in a real estate transaction. They themselves will run to Lowe's, they'll grab a single board, and they'll run back, and they'll put it down on the floor, and they're like, I got the buyer. And then they're like, oh gosh, and then they run back to Lowe's and they grab a bunch of screws. They're like, the drill, and they're running back and forth. They're killing themselves on one deal because they're not prepping in the front end. Rather, going and getting all of your supplies, laying it out nice and neat. Here's my joist. Here's my joist hangers. Here's the top of the board. Right. Here's my post. Here's the concrete to set the post in. You have your drill. You have your jack screws, and you have it all in a row. When stuff happens, you can just go and systematically put it in. All of your stuff is ready to go, and you're not losing your mind running back and forth, which is what a lot of folks will do by not communicating. So again, educating on them what is important. So what is important? So number one is how the search process works. So this is where you will become run ragged if you don't set this expectation in the front end. A lot of agents will say things like this: call me, text me, whenever, at any time, I'm ready to go. You have now signed up for slave labor. All they heard was, I am a tool to be used at your disposal whenever. Mm-hmm. That's cool if that's how you want to do your business. You can only handle about 3 of those at a time, maybe, because they all demand your attention all at once. So this is where you set that expectations of how that search looks. You say, hey, here's what we're going to do. we're gonna come together. I'm gonna have you set up on my site here. We update it hourly, right? Or whatever. Y'all have the same interfaces we do in this area here. If you don't, you're making sure that you have them on some sort of drip, whether that's on your personal website, maybe that's from the MLS, some things where you're saying, I have this and we're gonna update it immediately. And I'm also doing manual searches for you to make sure that I can find that. Now, I do have other clients. If I miss something, feel free to shoot it over to me, text it, and I will look and answer any questions about it. We can run and go see it if you like it. And they're like, great, because some people will sit there with their arms crossed and they'll be like, Joey didn't send me anything today. He's not even looking for me. He doesn't care how many agents I have or how many clients I have received this way. I was working with so-and-so, but I fired them, but they weren't working for me. Okay, I'll work for you. Set the expectation of how it's done. They're communicated to you properly, and they feel good about it, right? So that's where you set it. I'm available from 9 to 8. After 8 is family time, so I really didn't pick up there unless it's an absolute emergency. This is when you do this. It's very hard to, towards the middle of the transaction, go, hey, by the way, after 6, I'm probably don't call me, you know what I mean? So you have to, in the front end, lay that foundation down. Hey, even 8. From 8 o'clock till 8 o'clock, I'm available. After that, it's family time, I'm winding down, and so I'm gonna be pretty scarce to get a hold of, just a heads up. Oh, okay, great, it's a lot more understandable. So that's how you set how you want to do business up in the front end of the deal. The next is how you get paid. A lot of people don't understand how in the world buyer's agents especially get paid. And they're a bit nervous because they're buying something, again, that is one of the largest purchases of their entire life. And they'll kind of beat around the bush and they'll be like, yeah, this is cool, appreciate this help. So like how are you, so I heard something about closing costs, right? Yeah, closing costs comes at the loan. Like, that's how I pay you? Like, their real question is, how the heck are you here? How can you afford to be here? So that's when you explain, oh, excellent question. In real estate world, we understand that it's a little bit silly to put an extra burden on a buyer who is buying a house to be equally represented because you're already putting so much financial strain on yourself. So there is a bounty on these houses. So I will be paid for you. I'm a paid for expense that I can use as an asset by you, and you don't have to pay me anything. So, yay! That's one less thing I have to worry about. What about home inspection? And then you can start down, which goes into the next one. Under contract, you explain the searching process, you explain how you want to work with this person, help find them that perfect home, right? Then you're going to have that, what happens once we find the one, it works out, we set up that offer, what happens? Again, most of them have no idea. Even the ones that say, man, I bought 3 or 4 houses in my lifetime. They have no idea, because even then, there's many years in between those gaps. And the real estate laws have changed, maybe they bought another state. So you go over what happens. The first 2 things you set up, excellent. We're going to put in an offer, it gets accepted. We're going to talk about our earnest money, what that is. Explain what that is, because if you just go, oh yeah, bring your earnest money in, they're going to go, yeah, totally. They have no idea what earnest money is. So explain, hey, this is money, it's like a small down payment. It is good faith money to show, hey, I'm serious, it goes in this escrow account. And then you explain how that escrow account works. Seller can't dip their hand in it, buyer can't dip their hand in it. It shows you're serious. And if something goes wrong in the inspections or appraisal or financing, we're going to pull that back out. And you're only out the service that you hired to learn that information to get out. Oh, okay. So if I put in an offer, it's not a set deal. Because people are used to buying cars as the next higher expense. When you buy a car, you buy a car. You go to the lot, I would like this one, please. Here you go. And you walk away. The house, there's 3 ways to get out, right? So you explain all this thing, everything to them, how to get out of it, what earnest money is, right? And then I set up inspections. I always make sure, hey, inspections are this. Be sure to clarify, inspections are not appraisals, and appraisals are not inspections. So many people go, why would I want to pay that $500? I'm going to get an appraisal and they'll do an inspection. I said, watch, I'm going to do a live look of how most appraisers do their inspection. Just right here? Okay. Yeah, how you doing? Yeah. I heard about you guys. That's cool. I think I'm going to go to the other room. Click, click, click. Outside, click, 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 and they go out. So then you have Mr. Home Inspector wannabe that can get up in an attic and be like, what is this? Is this? They're no fun. But I prefer appraisers to be appraisers and inspectors to be inspectors. Be sure that it is separated. An inspection is not something that is needed for most loans. I always encourage it because you don't know what somebody's getting into, right? But they're not one and the same. So be sure that you explain what that inspection period is, explain that time frame that you have to make sure everyone's interacting in that time frame and you're doing things appropriately, right? So I set that up, and I want to make sure too, when you talk about inspections, this is where I see a lot of agents really drop the ball, because they're going to go, hey, well, we're going to have inspections. And they go, okay, hope everything looks good on it. And you go, yep. And then they get this giant 32-page list, and they go, oh my gosh, it's falling down. This is the worst decision ever. I can't get it. And half of it is like, our fault isn't in this house that was built in the 80s. Oh, there's shrubbery close to the house. Insects could get in here. Oh, there's settlement cracks here. You know what I'm saying? So they see that, and they're like, the foundation's shot. And I'm like, that's for settling cracks, you know? So I always make sure the inspection is there. I prep the buyer by saying, hey, we just hired the home inspector. That's awesome. We got him in the window we need. We're going to go ahead and touch base. If you don't mind, send it to me when you get it, because sometimes a home inspector will leave me out because you're the one that pays for it. It's yours. If you send it over to me, we can go over it together and make sure that we're looking for things that are going to keep us safe, secure, and sanitary. Those are the things I like to poke on. That's also some terminology I think that VA uses for when they're looking at a house. That's what I focus on. Essentially, I'll say, we want to make sure that your walls are strong and your foundation is strong so walls don't fall in and kill you, right? Make sure your wires are up to code so you don't get caught on fire, right? And I want to make sure that your roof is dry and your basement is dry, because water's no good. And they're like, okay, great. I'm like, we're going to see some little stuff, like an older appliance. Maybe the heat pump's going to be old, and we can talk about how we're going to get through some of those things as well. There's ways that it's a pretty big expense. You can get a home inspection and make sure that you're taken care of that way. Not home inspection, home warranty. And what's that? You can explain what a home warranty is. So you're setting it up like, hey, you're going to get this big list. So that when they come to you and they go, Megan, there's 30 pages over here, and it's just, there's failed, and there's this, and this failed the inspection. Like, hey, well, it's not, this is actually stuff that we're just going to make, they're paid to find everything, right? Because if he comes in and just goes, looks good, I'm like, dang, I spent $400 on that. I want to see everything. So we're going to stop and look at all the things here and what needs to be addressed. And when I looked through it, I thought of A, B, C, and D, and E. What did you think? I was thinking A, B, C, D, but I also thought F. Oh, okay, cool. We can put F in there too. And then I put all those in there, and that's how I do it. So that way you don't have a 20-page repair proposal. You know what I'm saying? So I found that is way helpful. If ever I slack and I don't really go over that, they come back and they're like, I mean, that happened for one when they were out of town, and I went through and did the virtual one for them. They got the home inspection report, but I thought the deck was falling apart. I went over there, it was a brand new deck. I was like, it's solid. And they're like, oh, okay. So, again, your job is emotional handling as well. So as you prep buyers, you're constantly catching their emotions. Hey, I completely understand. It's a big concern. Let's get to the bottom of it. Speak into that, speak life into that, pass them back. And they're like, okay, cool. So you're essentially grabbing people, you're hugging them, you're like, you're good. Okay, goodbye. I needed it. That's a lot of real estate. So, you go through the appraisal and what that is. This is one of my biggest educators that I use when somebody is saying, hey, the market is wacko, I don't want to overpay, because we're getting into a lot of multiple offer situations. I say, great, we have appraisal contingency. The bank will not let you overpay. The bank will not finance your eager wallet. So even if I go, oh my gosh, Kelly, those glasses are amazing, I want to buy those for $100,000, let me just get a loan. The appraiser's going to come out and go, this is worth $50,000 maybe, and they're gonna go, wow, expensive shades. And they're like, yeah, these are, the appraiser said so. The appraiser then goes back to the bank and says, dude, we're only lending this guy $50,000. He's not getting an additional 50 for this, whatever, right? And people go, oh, okay, that makes sense. What happens if it doesn't? 99 out of 100 times, so we'll drop the price. If not, we can battle out what we have to do here. If they're just absolutely sticking the muds, we can walk away. We don't have to bring up that extra money. Oh, okay, so that's another way out. Oh, okay, great. And you go through it that way. Then you brought them to the final walkthrough. What is that? Why are we doing that? We are checking the repairs that have been done. We're also making sure that the property is in it's still there. It's not on fire, not covered in fleas or whatever, right? You're walking in, you're looking good, you keep checking, you did by fleas before. You walk in, you make sure that it's, that they didn't just rip up the walls or rip up the carpet. You're going, okay, good. It's in a normal, as the paperwork says on your final walkthrough form. We accept it in the as-is condition. We understand normal wear and tear to be expected, right? So you're gonna have scuffs on the wall, some little nail holes and stuff like that. Yeah, you walk through the process. What if I'm not for closing? You work through for mobile notaries. You work through the title company of mail away. So you're just handling all of their needs and what's going on there, and be sure to show up for closing. Closing to me is the last bite of the meal of the real estate transaction. And when you do not show up, I'm too busy, I can't do this, you subliminally said you're not important to me. And that's the last feeling they have as they walk away. When I wasn't able to be there because my wife was having a baby or like whatever, I have put people in there in my stead to be there as a representative of the team, of the brokerage, to give them that last, yay, we're excited for you, this is a huge move, and we're so blessed to be part of it type of deal. So we're going through the whole transaction with proper communication, we're educating them throughout. That education translates better into setting expectations. If we set realistic expectations of what we're gonna get with a home inspection, what we'll get with an appraisal, when that happens, it's a lot easier to go back and say, hey, remember when we talked about that first day, of what we would do if that appraisal's low? Here's what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna drop the price down, but I don't know if I can get all your closing costs covered. Oh, okay, well, it's gonna drop your payment, we can do this. Well, that works better, and you figure out what your client's needs are. But you have a much more calm and relaxed client if you've already spoken to them about it, and then it happens. It's like with anything. It's like if you're driving down the road, to switch my illustration in my head, and you see the car coming, and you can brace up, you're like, here it comes, you're ready. Then if you're like, and you get hit out of nowhere, you have whiplash, you're disoriented, you don't know what's going on, very emotional. That happens all the time in real estate. So if you keep them educated, set their expectations to a realistic thing. Don't be like, that home inspection's coming back with nothing on it, baby, don't worry about it. And then you've set yourself up to fail. The appraisal, it'll be fine. You can say, I feel confident it'll be good, but here's what we'll do if it's not. Make sure you're doing that throughout, and I believe you're gonna see your close rate, your success rate go up and up and up. I know I have, I know Tim has, I know our team has. The more that we work together on, okay, how can I explain this process better, the less we have angry emails, the less we have angry phone calls, and people are having a better experience more and more. They're not scared when they're seeing stuff, and they're getting out when something is really bad and we need to get out. Especially, it's usually me being like, you need to be out, and like, we thought so too. And then we take them out. That's our job. So, just making sure that people aren't getting out because they are afraid of the unknown and they weren't properly educated and didn't have their expectations set in that way. So I hope that this is helpful. I hope it accelerates your business, and I hope that it allows you to educate and properly set up expectations with your buyers so that they are able to go through this process nice and silky smooth and have an enjoyable experience buying or just buying a property as their buyers. So appreciate you guys for tuning in, for you guys for coming. It means a whole lot. Hope you enjoyed the fruit. You guys want it in the office, it's here. I'm sure it'll be in the fridge for 3 days before Karen throws it out. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Matt.